In the sweltering summer heat of 1401, after having already annihilated the great Syrian cities of Damascus and Aleppo, a tremendous army came upon Baghdad and encircled the entire circumference of the walled city, even building a bridge of boats across the Tigris to prevent the inhabitants from escaping. 6 weeks the siege lasted, starving and terrifying the defenders of the city. The invading emperor, standing at the head of this great army, knew what he was doing. He was a master strategist who'd been dominating this portion of the world for decades. In the coming years, he would crush the armies of the Ottoman Empire, enslaving the Sultan in a cage at the celebration banquet that ensued, as the Sultan's wives and courtesans served their conquerors as serving wenches and cupbearers, completely in the nude, as well as march towards the other end of the world in a grand scheme to conquer China. On a particularly hot afternoon, he chose the perfect moment to charge the city, when a number of the archers on the walls had propped their helmets up as decoys and abandoned their posts to return home to escape the heat. The city was swarmed. The attackers appeared with ladders, the catapults and mangonels suddenly unleashed. Many of the citizens of Baghdad attempted to flee down the Tigris, where archers awaited. The city had passed back and forth through different hands a half-dozen times in as many years. It was right now in rebellion against its overlord, the emperor who stood on the Tigris's left bank, holding in his hand a solid ruby of about 2,400 carats and overseeing the slaughter. The city had harbored 2 fugitives, Sultan Ahmed of the Jalirid clan, and Kara Yusuf of the Kara-Koyunlu tribe, or Black Sheep tribe, both Turco-Mongol warlords that had been trying to eke out their lives in feuding fledgling states in western Persia and Iraq for some time. They had refused to submit, and had both bounced around from Egypt to Syria to the Ottomans, looking for refuge. These two were actually mortal enemies of each other as well. The Jalirids would finally die under the boot heel of Kara Iskander, Kara Yusuf's son, in 1432, but for the time being had forged an alliance. They had come out of exile and reclaimed their lands, only both to flee again at the first sign of the tremendous army approaching the city's walls. They both took refuge once more with the Ottoman Sultan, the man who, in a few years, would be caged as his naked wives and concubines served their conquerors. Baghdad had fallen. A price would be paid. Banditry and rebellion was fraught throughout this burgeoning empire, already larger in size than that of Alexander the Great. Messages must be sent. Thoughts of rebellion must never so much as enter the hearts of his subjects. So came the emperor's orders. Annihilation. Each of his soldiers was to bring him the decapitated head of one city inhabitant. One source says it was 2 heads. This was the usual motif, already inflicted upon dozens of other cities from Syria to India. Except that, now, in this late stage of his career, his army was so large that the numbers became staggering. Initially, he dispatched a small unit, some 20,000 strong, to deal with Baghdad, yet the detachment had failed, and now the bulk of his army had finished the job. There weren't enough heads to go around. So his soldiers went to their own camp followers, the prostitutes, the slaves, and anyone else upon whose head they could get their hands. It wasn't uncommon among these sorts of sieges for a black market of human heads to emerge, the proactive opportunists and those without qualms acting swiftly to corner the market. Towards the beginning of a siege, the price per head was usually around 10 dinars. As the market became flooded, prices dropped to a mere half a dinar. 90,000 human heads were collected and stacked meticulously in 120 towers. Next came the order to burn and raze the entire city, sparing only the mosques and madrasas. The Emperor Tamerlane, the man who would be responsible for the deaths of 5% of the Earth's population, prayed in a local mosque as the city burned around him.